So, what if I told you that four ancient verses, just a few lines from the book of Daniel, could map out the final dramatic years of a powerful king's life with just unbelievable accuracy? For centuries, people have looked at these specific lines, Daniel 11, verses 16 through 19, and seen a historical blueprint written down before it ever happened. Today, we're going to unpack that and see for ourselves. It all starts with this picture of just absolute power. We're talking about a ruler who is so dominant, so unstoppable, that literally no one can get in his way. This is the guy we're following, a man at the absolute peak of his strength. Okay, so who is this king? Who is this guy whose rise and falls seem to be pre-written in these ancient, kind of cryptic lines? The text doesn't give us a name, but you know what? History gives us a pretty clear suspect. So let's dive in and see how the historical record stacks up against this ancient text. Our story kicks off right where the prophecy does, with a king at the very top of his game. He's a conqueror, and he's totally used to getting exactly what he wants. This is Act 1, Unchecked Dominion. Here's the full first verse, and it really paints a picture, doesn't it? This ruler not only crushes all his enemies, but he also sets himself up in the glorious land, and that's a term that historians pretty much all agree means Judea. He does whatever he wants, and the land itself feels the weight of his power. And this is where we meet our guy, the Seleucid king, Antiochus III, also known as Antiochus the Great. So the prophecy says a king will do according to his own will, right? Well, history records that in 200 BC, Antiochus did exactly that. He seized control of Judea. The text says he'll stand in the glorious land, and that's right where he established his dominance. For a while there, nobody could stand before him. It's an incredible one-to-one match. But you know how it goes. Absolute power can make you overconfident. And this king's next big move was this really cunning political scheme, using his own daughter as a pawn. It was a high-stakes gamble for an even bigger empire, and it would end up being the story's major turning point. So the prophecy keeps going. It says the king will offer up a daughter of women, trying to use her for his own gain, basically to corrupt her to make her a spy. But the text predicts the whole thing is going to fail. It says flat out, she shall not stand on his side, neither be for him. It's a story of family intrigue where the master plan just completely falls apart. And again, what happens in history? Well, it's almost a carbon copy. In 130 BC, Antiochus marries off his daughter, Cleopatra I, to Egypt's king, Ptolemy V. The whole idea was for her to be his agent, his spy, inside the rival court. But history tells us she did the exact opposite. She stayed loyal to her new husband and her new kingdom, siding with Egypt against her own father. His brilliant scheme totally backfired, just like the verse said it would. So, the king's big political chess move failed. But he's not deterred. He sets his sights on new conquests, only this time, his ambition runs smack into a new immovable force that's rising in the West. This is Act 3, The Reckoning. Verse 18 then describes a brand new military campaign. The king shall turn his face unto the isles, and he's going to conquer a lot of them. But, and this is a huge but, his expansion is going to be stopped. A prince, or maybe a commander, is going to show up and put an end to his arrogant advance, and even turn his own reproach right back on him. And who was that challenger? Yup, the rising Roman Republic. Antiochus the Great, the ruler of this vast Hellenistic empire, was about to clash with this disciplined, ambitious new power that would go on to define the next several centuries of world history. I mean, this was a true collision of titans. And once again, history provides this really striking parallel. In 192 BC, Antiochus turned his face to the Isles by invading Greece, but his campaign was stopped, and stopped hard, by the Romans. The prophecy's prince finds its perfect match in the Roman general Lucius Cornelius Scipio Asiaticus, who crushed Antiochus in 190 BC and forced a humiliating retreat. Just like that, the great king's unstoppable momentum was broken. So now, he's defeated, humbled, and forced to retreat. And that brings us to the final, really tragic act of our story. A quiet, frankly embarrassing end for a man who once seemed to have the whole world in his hands. This last verse is just chilling in how simple it is. After his big defeat, the king will return home, but there he will stumble and fall and not be found. Think about that. Not some grand death in a glorious battle, but a stumble, a fall, and then just gone. And this is exactly what happened to Antiochus the Great. He went back to his own land, humbled and deeply in debt to Rome. Desperate for money, he made one last fatal mistake. In 187 BC, he tried to plunder a temple in a region called Elymais. That was his stumble. The local people were furious, they rose up against him, and he was killed. Far from a battlefield, far from glory. He fell, and he was not be found on the world stage ever again. So there you have it. 4 specific verses from Daniel chapter 11, and 4 distinct acts in the downfall of Antiochus the Great: his unchecked power, his failed family scheme, his crushing defeat by Rome, and his final desperate fall. The alignment is, well, it's remarkable. Which leaves us with the big question, right? Are we looking at a detailed prophecy, a recurring historical pattern, or just one of the most incredible coincidences of all time?